Adventure in Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
This is the Pipeman here on the Adventures Pipeman W4CY Radio, and I'm excited about our next guest because she is a legend in my mind for sure, and you're going to want to hear what's going on. So let's welcome to the show, Brijitte West. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you very much for that amazing introduction.
Well, you well deserve it. And I was even told that you have a great story. So I'd like to hear your story, and I'm sure our listeners would like to hear your story. I was even told, including one with Dee Dee Ramone.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the Dee Dee Ramone story. How long do you have? So Dee Dee Ramone, I met Dee Dee Ramone when I lived in New York. Well, obviously from New York City, and met him in a bar, and he decided that he wanted to be in my band. He had left the Ramones, and it was me and Rick Backus from D-Generation, and we were sort of like in this bar, and he started talking to us, and he was like, "Oh, you guys are in a band? Do you need a bass player?" And we were like, "Yeah, we actually do." And he actually decided that he wanted to be our bass player. And because Dee Dee was, I don't know, he was so eccentric, let's just be kind and say that. Yeah, so he said, "Yeah, I'm your bass player now," and that's it. So, we went with it. We just went with it. We're like, okay. So we did, we were going to do one gig with him. We had this band called, it was the very first band that I had in New York City was actually called Sprocket. And we put up posters all over town. It said Sprocket featuring Dee Dee Ramone. Probably very, very few people are going to remember this, but some people will remember that. And anyway, so the night before the show, we were going to open up for the Pixies at the Ritz, I believe it was. And of course, he chickens out and he says, "Oh, I'm not doing the show." Blah, blah. And so we ended up that day rehearsing another guy, getting him to do the gig, and unbelievable. And then we formed a band called Viva La Wattage. I put out a 7-inch single with Viva La Wattage, which is a very rare single. I think you can get it on Discogs. But yeah, that was my very first band with Rick from D-Generation. And but Dee Dee remained obsessed with me. And so there's more to the story. But yeah, that's the very first sort of kind of foray into my life with Dee Dee.
Nice. And here we are all these years later, and you're remastering a collection, and it's being projected as September 1st to be released. Mm-hmm. Monolith Kids.
Yes.
And it's on LP and CD. That's pretty exciting too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like vinyl is making a comeback. I can't even believe it. Like my grandkids, they have me buy them vinyl. I'm actually in sticker shock too of what vinyl is nowadays. Like they want an album and it's like $38. I'm like, wow, when I was a teenager, I wouldn't have been able to afford an album. But, we're in different times and albums are in demand. Thank God, I think, because, it is the best way to really consume music, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Especially records that were recorded on analog to begin with, recorded on 2-inch tape or 4-inch tape or whatever inch tape, and then to listen to it digitally, it doesn't really make sense. The crossover doesn't work. The warmth is gone. The dimension is gone. But then when you listen to it on vinyl, it doesn't even matter what sort of turntable you have or what sort of speaker you have. It doesn't have to be the most expensive, thing. There's still another dimension that vinyl offers that CD and digital just doesn't. So I'm really excited about Monolith Kids because it's remastered. When I made most of these recordings, I was I was such a starving artist that I was looking at menus in sort of Polish diners based on the prices of things rather than what I actually could eat, wanted to eat. I mean, so in other words, the budget on making a lot of these records these recordings was so poor that actually having somebody going through these recordings and mastering them properly is so amazing. And for to be able to listen to them in with that whole other dimension is going to be really exciting for people that were fans of mine anyway. So it's very, very exciting.
And you're right about the albums. Like, I think a lot of people don't realize, especially people that grew up in the digital generation, that digital is just like choppy. It's not a wave, and you're missing the mids. So like you said, the depth is not there. And there's a whole different feeling to that depth, when you immerse yourself in the album.
Yes. I find it really difficult. Even like that word immerse yourself is a really good one. I've never felt I could really immerse myself in music in the digital age like I used to when I put a record on.
Exactly.
A vinyl record and really just sat with it, just listening. I remember like being a teenager and listening to kind of like, like Def Leppard or something, putting on the album and just being like, I am in the room with the band right now. You know what I mean? Like I'm actually like in the room, like, and that's what vinyl gives you. I really feel like that's what it does.
There was somebody I talked to.
I don't know, but.
Well, there's somebody I talked to. I was just doing a festival overseas, and one of the bands I was talking to, they were telling a story about Lemmy, and they were like, he's like, you want to hear what heavy is? This is what heavy is, and he put on an album, and the sound quality was like definitely horrible. This way it's being described to me, and like, but he. Playing that album, he said to the guy, he goes, that's heavy, and he's referring to the fact of just listening to an album and all the sounds that could come from it is what's heavy.
Yeah, I think people have lost that. I think, well, not that they've lost that. I think again, sorry kids, in the digital age, you never had that.
Yeah, so exactly.
Right. So I think one of the reasons, and great, and kudos to all of you people that have discovered vinyl and are now understanding the craft of the sound, and how production and the actual kind of, how sound can be actually really tactile. You can actually feel it, and you can really, like I said before, it's sort of it was recorded on analog tape, then it's put on this wax disc, which is then put on vinyl, which is then you put on a needle, and then it's transmitted that way. There's something that's so beautiful about that process that digitally doesn't exist, and something gets a very, very important element of sound and production and the emotion of music and the heaviness of music and the depth of music gets lost. But I mean, there are still some amazing artists that are working digitally now that are doing great, really beautiful records, really amazing records. I just think rock, for instance, for me, it just sounds so much better digital on vinyl. So
yeah, and it's kind of magical because somebody else I was talking to just last weekend, they were like, yeah, so when you listen to the album, there's something different about it. There's something magical about it. And they're like, I don't even know how that sound comes off of that vinyl from a needle, and that's the magical part.
For sure.
So what made you decide to remaster this now and basically, make an incredible album of something that dates all the way back to the beginning when it really was like that?
Mm. I think I have an urge to remain relevant. I think that's probably number one. Also because I had the opportunity, and I took the opportunity to do it. I really was curious to listen to these songs being remastered and reimagined in a digital era, and in a whole new way. And I really believed that people would be interested and in listening to them, and to put them all onto one record. And also they've never been released on vinyl before, so that's really interesting as well.
See, that's the amazing part to me, because like that is a thing too back then, is there was music that was never released that was badass from a lot of artists, played live. And it's kind of cool that here we are in 2026 and people can experience it now.
Mm-hmm.
And so tell me also about what made you decide with the special bonus having that the cover of Cheap Tragedies by the Avengers.
Because that was never released.
Ah.
I mean, it was released on a very small label in a very, very small way on an Avengers cover record. But it was such a kind of a blip. So here you go. So it's on an actual New York Loose album. A great song, a great band. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So it's a new track for people to listen to. But the big news is that I have a new album coming out.
Ooh, let's talk about that.
Yeah, I do. I have a brand new album coming out. So it's a bit early to talk about it now, but it's going to be out in sort of November time.
Very cool.
Yeah, so we'll do another show all around that one. But yeah, so that's going to be really, I think the record that's coming out in November is probably one of the best things I've ever done. I think it is the best thing I've ever done. So I'm really, really excited about that. So Monolith Kids is brilliant because it's sort of like, this is, me, like how long I've been around,
right?
How long I've been doing this for. This is where it's all beginning. This is how you can, sort of understand my history, how long I've been doing this. And I don't know, sort of like, I feel really, really proud that I can really, really put that stake in the ground and say I was one of the originals. I was one of the original, late 80s, early 90s. I was there. I did this. I was making my own records. I was putting out 7-inch singles. I was, postering the walls in New York City. And I'm still doing it. Well, and I'm doing it without a label. I'm doing it without any real support. I'm just doing it because I love it. And that's, and that's it really. So.
And that's still so punk too. Because like punk was always DIY.
I am punk. I've always been pretty punk, and I still am punk.
Well, and that a true punk is, because it's like, if I talk to people and they'll say, oh, I used to like punk rock or I used to like metal, I'm like, then you weren't really into it if that were the case. Because I think once you are, you always are.
Yeah.
It's more than just a genre.
It is. It's sort of like your character. I think punk is your character. I'm punk in pretty much everything I do,
Right.
Like, yeah, I'm like punk the way that I decorate. I'm punk the way that I do business. I'm punk the way that I, and not punk as in, I don't wear a dog collar anymore. And I don't, obviously I look, I think I look probably pretty normal, but it's sort of it's this attitude where, you don't have to follow the rules. You can do life the way you feel you want to do life. Right.
It amazes me that nowadays that we still need that punk attitude more than ever. You would
more
think
than
things would
ever.
be different, and they're worse. Like, I don't know how that happened. You know?
We need it more than ever. We need to be authentic to ourselves. I'm going to have a little rant. So today I was at the supermarket.
I love rants.
Okay, here we go. You ready? I went
I'm
to the
ready.
supermarket, and I don't know, you probably don't know who this is. She's called Katie Price. Okay, just think the Kardashians, okay, but even worse, okay? So we're talking about um like so fake, so like to the point where even the color of the skin is completely changed. Okay, so this woman called Katie Price. There was a woman in the grocery store that I looked at her and I thought, are you Katie Price? Because she tried to look so much like Katie Price that I actually thought it was her. In other words, her skin was like really, she had like super, super, super dark tan on. She had like her whole face was obviously completely changed. Her body obviously was completely changed. Everything about this woman was totally changed. And I thought, but do you know who you actually are anymore? Do you know what I
Right?
mean?
Yeah.
Like, girl, you were born a certain way, and it's okay to do stuff. We all do stuff to make ourselves look good, but where is your authenticity? And that's an extreme version. But I think to the point, it's that I think to feel like you want to live and be someone else, I find really bizarre. And I think when you live in sort of this way where you want to be authentic and punk, it's sort of like you're living the way you feel is aligned to yourself. And that's just so important and really, really rare. And I think for me as an artist, I've always just tried to be that. And that's all I've ever done. I've made many different types of music, even, right? So I don't know if you've ever heard my Sandusky stuff, which is very, very Americana.
Yeah.
I've done so many different types of things.
That makes you punk, in my opinion.
To me, that makes me punk, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because there are no rules. And look at Social D as an example. They like define this thing they call cowpunk. Like everything has to have a label on it. But I think artists should just be artists and be creative, and that's what's
right.
punk.
And believe me, I'm not putting anyone down that wants to do anything to themselves or whatever to make themselves feel better. But for me, it's about just what you said before. It's like, let's just try and be authentic. Let's love ourselves more. Let's trust ourselves more. Let's be, to understand our own instincts more. Do you know what I mean? And for me, that's kind of like that's what it means to be punk. It really, really does. I know it doesn't sound like, again, I'm not wearing the dog collars. I'm not doing the, I'm finding that, in my sort of grown up, version of myself, I'm still pretty punk,
Yeah, it's an attitude that never leaves you. And I think people that don't understand the attitude, because all they put to it is the look and the debauchery of some of it way back when, and that's all they think of. But to me, like I always said, like the punks were the even more authentic versions of the hippies, because like the hippies, they turned into the yuppies, turned into the boomers, whereas the punks were just always punks, and they were against certain things that the hippies were against too, but they stuck to it and never did conform to what society's rules are. That's why I call it because who made up those rules? Like, just you do you. And
always do you, people. Just do you. Doesn't matter what's going on around you. Just do you, and just love yourself and be good to yourself, and that's all you got to do.
Exactly.
Right?
So I'm totally, because like as long as you're not intentionally trying to hurt people, what does it matter what you are, who you are, what you do? And the fact is I think it's great in one way that we live in a world now that people can be more expressive without judgment, you know. And then there's still those people. Like I have a brother, okay, he's one of the most judgy people on earth, okay. And so up until recently I had blue hair for a while, for like years, and he would say stuff about that, and then he would say stuff like, I don't have any tattoos, but he would say about tattoos and like the blah 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 blah, nobody has tattoos. I'm like, dude, look around, man, like pretty much everybody does nowadays. And he goes, well, maybe everybody, you know, and he's like assuming because I'm into a certain type of music that only my people are. And that's so 80s, because that was the case then. It's not the case now. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and why shouldn't people be able to express in any way they want? Same thing with, you know, you making music. Like, you made the music as an artist you wanted to make. There's no rules, you know, and I think that's the beauty of being DIY, because, you know, a lot of times throughout history, the record labels, like, you have to have a genre, you know, and you have to fit in this box. And I don't think artists should ever be in a box.
I think I dodged a bullet, you know. I think I literally I think I literally dodged a bullet in a lot of ways. I've been thinking about this lately, where, you know, gosh, should we talk about this? Should we go here? Okay,
Sure.
these are my thoughts lately. So when we okay, you know how all this stuff is now sort of like coming to the surface about, you know, like people actually, you know, didn't actually unalive themselves, but were unalived because they were going to spill the beans on something or do
Uh-huh.
something. Okay, we know what we're talking about here. You know,
Yes,
all right,
totally.
all right. So Kurt Cobain, blah blah, right? So Courtney Love, here she comes. She's coming out. I'm coming out at the same time. Interesting. Um, we're even on a record together. The Crow City of Angels soundtrack. She's got
Yeah.
a Gold Dust Woman on there. I Have Spit on there. It turns out her dad is in the CIA. Okay, don't kill me, please, whoever you are. Anyway, my album's coming out, Year of the Rat. It's getting unbelievable reviews. It is, everybody is just waiting for this thing to explode. We go on the road with Marilyn Manson. Marilyn Manson's crowd, we win over the Spooky Kids, which was like a monumental feat, okay, in itself.
Right.
I had to literally spit on them.
Yeah, that's the funniest story ever right there.
You've heard that one. I had to do that. Otherwise, we were getting bottled the whole time. Honestly, it was crazy. And I mean, that's punk rock. And anyway, so we do this video called for a song called Broken. I get my friend Terry Richardson to do the video. Terry Richardson then turns into, very shortly after, the biggest fashion photographer. He did a book called what was it called, like Richardson's Life or whatever. Anyway, a bit of a perv, but anyway, major fashion photographer who later did a little tiny video with a small artist you may have heard of called Miley Cyrus. And
Yeah, just a small one.
yeah, and the little, it's a little video you may not have seen called Wrecking Ball. Anyway, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's my friend Terry. We do this video for Broken. It's a kick-ass video. It's fucking cool as fuck. Okay, so we bring it to the record company that everything is just about to go fucking crazy. The record company says to me, "Oh, we're not putting out the video, Brijitte." I'm like, "Oh, why?" "Because we don't really like the shirt you're wearing."
Oh my Lord.
True story.
I believe it too.
I'm like, "You don't like the shirt I'm wearing? What's wrong with the fucking shirt I'm wearing?" I mean, I've always worn like animal print furry shirts, like, and yeah. Record gets shelved, we get dropped. Guess who gets huge in that year? Anyway, this is what I'm saying. I think, I'm sitting here now in England, okay, in this tiny little village, making, this record, Monolith Kids. And then I've done this other record, which is the best record I've ever made in my life. And feeling like, that's okay. It's okay. I didn't need to be a big, gigantic superstar and kowtow to, like you said, the record labels. And I got a pretty good life. I'm fine. And not only that, I'm still fucking punk rock.
Right. Right.
Right. And I don't answer to anybody.
And you shouldn't. That was one of the things, like, I'm originally from New York, New Jersey, and in 1980, my dad comes up to me. He says, "Pack your bags. We're moving to California in 3 days."
Oh my God, my dad almost said that to me too, but we never actually moved.
Well, we did, and and so I was there for that whole Hollywood Sunset Strip, all of that, and I remember like being backstage and watching record labels like destroy the music in that area to make it what they want. I'm like, I'm out, like, and I was very involved in that scene. And I was like, no, I don't want to sell my soul, and even you take like, okay, so like Belinda Carlisle and Jane, they were hardcore punkers, and look at what they were turned into. That I think caused a lot of the conflict, problems, and everything else, and because, the thing, I even think about it like back then, it's like, well, they gave these bands all the money, drugs, and everything else so that they were oblivious so that they could rob them blind. Basically.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, I never even made enough money for them to rob me, so that's okay.
Well, but see, now you stayed punk,
But I'm still punk. I can say I'm still punk.
Exactly.
Have you ever seen a film called The Decline of Western Civilization?
Oh, of course, every version of it.
Well,
I've seen the real one like multiple times, and then they made like the metal one and the other one.
The metal years.
I've seen them all like a million times.
Okay, so last Christmas I showed my kids that. So I have kids. They're not kids anymore. My son is 22 and my daughter's 20, and they are the coolest kids. Anyway, so it's Christmas time, and we always watch films. And they're like, Mom, show us a film, because like I always give them like a bit of an education when we're watching films. So I'm like, we're gonna watch The Decline of Civilization, the metal years. Okay. They could not believe it because they'd never ever seen this before. Like they've never seen the hair bands. They couldn't believe the whole Ghazari dancers thing. They couldn't believe the world that this was, it's so foreign to them. And it's, what a wild time, like what what people got away with,
Oh yeah, I'm glad we didn't have social media.
Can you
I was pissed at my dad when he said, but like it's the best thing that ever happened, because like to live in those times and in the peak of it, I think about when I go out to LA now and I go to Rainbow, I'm like, and I'm watching them ID everybody, and I'm getting ID'd in my 50s at Rainbow. I'm like, how the hell did I get in there at 13 years old? Oh, that's right. I would be walking in there with Motley Crue to go hang out with Lemmy and Ron Jeremy. And like, that was what the time was like back then, And then it was weird. Like also I was a metalhead and a punk, but I had long hair. So I couldn't go to punk shows until the crossover, and punks couldn't go to metal shows. And I remember like, I wanted to go get my spikes at Posers on Melrose. But I'm a long hair. I can't walk into that store. So I took a couple of my
just to get the, the big gigantic Asterix head.
Right. Well, what I did, you're going to love this story, is I brought a couple of my punk friends that were friends with the owners. So I figure it's cool, and we walk in, we're there for about 30 seconds. And my friend's like, we need to leave. And I'm like, why? I'll tell you outside. We need to leave now. And so apparently the owners pulled them over and said, listen, because you're friends of ours, we're not going to kick his ass yet, but you need to remove him from the store or else we're going to kick the shit out of him.
Oh
Now,
my God.
that was then. Now it is so cool because I go on tour and I do, media coverage at metal and punk festivals all over the US, UK, and Europe. I just got back from the UK, as a matter of fact.
Amazing. Oh my God.
And it's like we can all be one big happy family.
Isn't it
nowadays.
so cool? I know. I love that. I love that now that everything is, there's no sort of, everything is sort of blurred. Yeah. And it's interesting that everybody has so much knowledge. Well, not everybody, but people like me and you, for instance, we have so much knowledge of so many different genres, right? So we can talk metal, we can talk punk, we can talk folk, we can, I know you probably know lots and lots and lots of different types of music. And, I was actually doing a podcast the other day and I said, listen, I never, ever think about music in genre. I just don't.
No, it's stupid. And nowadays there's so many like micro genres and subgenres.
Exactly.
It's so finite that it's ridiculous.
Yes.
Why should you be lumped in? And it's just like even back then when, the punks and the metal, they couldn't get along. Meanwhile, we were both the ones getting bullied by the jocks and we're fighting each other instead of banding together against those assholes, to be blunt.
Yeah. It's so much better now. In fact, my kids are, and I think my kids or kids in general or young people in general are kind of like, wow, it really used to be that segregated. And it's like, yeah, it really used to be. So that's a good thing about going back to today. That's a good thing, I think, that, we've got a lot of crossover in genre and we don't have that sort of segregation anymore. You can be into a whole bunch of different things. And I love when you look at a festival now that it's so many different types of people on the bill now. And, and everybody's enjoying it and everybody's, getting it and getting into it. It's cool. So
tell me, no assholes. I'd say that all the time. Now there's no assholes at those festivals.
Right. No one's trying to kick you out because you got long hair or whatever, or the wrong T-shirt on or whatever.
Exactly. What were you going to just ask me?
What festivals are you doing?
So I did this year so far, Hell's Heroes, and then Milwaukee Metal Fest, Welcome to Rockville. Those were all in the US. Then I did Download. I normally do Hellfest, but this year I hung out with my son because it was Father's Day instead. And then Incarceration in July, which is really cool. It's at Shawshank Prison.
Wow.
That's a cool festival. And then I just got back from doing Wacken in Germany and Bloodstock in the UK. And Bloodstock is still not corporate. It's DIY, family run, and then of course,
who was playing?
Oh yeah, it's like all like mostly metal, but you had like Slur to Prevail was one of the headliners.
I never heard
them. Yeah, see, they're brutal.
I mean, I'm sure they're great, but I'm not.
And then the same weekend, another one that I would cover next year I'll be at because it's a different weekend than Bloodstock is Rebellion over there. I'm sure you're familiar with Rebellion.
Yes.
Exactly.
That's a great one.
This year I should have been doing, I always do Punk in the Park, but that got canceled. It's weird that punk festivals are getting canceled because of politics these days, but like 5 Punk in the Parks got canceled. Punk Rock Bowling I do every year got canceled this year. It's kind of ridiculous. That's a really cool festival too, Punk Rock Bowling.
Well,
but
unfortunately,
it's kind of weird. Like it's kind of weird to me. Like this is when we need those festivals most of all, and it's I don't know. Sometimes it's kind of weird. Like some of the crossover of how things are like Like I remember one festival I did a couple of years ago. The band he wasn't playing there, but he came backstage and I was having like a 45-minute conversation, political conversation. You don't even have to agree or disagree, just the fact that with Jello Biafra. And I was like sitting there like, well, this is fucking cool. I'm having a 45-minute talk with Jello Biafra. I mean, like, and I think those are the people and that type of attitude. That's what's punk too, where you can speak up, where you do speak up and be yourself and authentically yourself, no matter what, and speak up against things that are wrong, you know? And it's basically what it comes down to. And I think we need more of it these days. I even have a solution to the world's problems. You want to hear it?
I definitely do.
We have one big music festival that the whole world is required to attend, and all the political leaders are banned from it. Security is told under no circumstances they come in. And we just put everybody in one big mosh pit, and we'll all work it out and hug afterwards, and all the world's problems will be solved. Because that's what's punk. You know?
Unfortunately, the people that are going to attend the festival are not the people that make the decisions about
exactly.
films.
But we need to stop them from dividing all of us because we're all just humans. That's the bottom line.
That is correct. And that's what they're trying to do.
Of course.
That's the agenda. It's just it's dividing, right? It's dividing and you know, and making hate a really cool thing, right?
Oh, no doubt about it.
Some sort of strength or power. And there's no strength or power in hatred.
100%. And that's where I think people that aren't in the scene misunderstand punk and misunderstand metal, because we're not about hate. We're not about hurting people. We just express ourselves so we're not hating and hurting people. And it's therapy, you know?
It's creative outlet.
I'm glad you're staying relevant, and I'm glad you're still doing this, because we need people like that to continue and pass on the torch to others, you know, because like you said, there's people not here right now that, I don't think they unalive themselves either, you know, and you know, I also, we're talking about how things are today where we can merge together. I thank people like Lemmy and Wendy O. Williams for that were able to show that we could all band together.
Oh my God, I love Wendy O. Williams. Do you know, I remember when she was on, you probably remember this show. What was it called now? Anyway.
I know what you're talking about too.
It was a show on television, and the Plasmatics were on there. It was like Saturday something sounds or
Saturday Night Live.
No, it wasn't Saturday Night Live.
Because I do remember when she was on something, and it was like so iconic.
And I actually had a cassette player, and I taped it because I wanted to make sure. She was amazing.
Oh my God.
She was, oh my God, amazing, amazing. And you know, I met her. I just happened to meet her.
That's way cool.
Oh my God. Well, I met her twice. Once I was in her video because there was like sort of an open casting, and I showed up, and I just kind of like ran up to the front, and I was like, yeah, like on I can't remember what song it was. It was not Plasmatics. It was one of the Wendy O. Williams, you know, Wow. It was on the Wow album. And so I was just like one in the crowd, you know, and I actually had, because I had long hair, I was like, I put my hair up in the asterisk. So if you see a girl with the asterisk head going like that in one of the video, anyway, I actually never even seen the video. I got to look it up and see if I'm in it. But anyway, so I kind of met her briefly then. But later I was working for Howard Marks, who used to manage Kiss. Okay. And he was a nightmare. Oh my God. I have the whole stories about that whole situation. Anyway, I went to the health food store because I've always sort of been kind of vegetarian, always tried to be vegetarian. Anyway, so I went to the health food store and fucking Wendy O. Williams is in the fucking bran and like lentils aisle.
Wow.
I know. I was like, you're Wendy O. Williams. And she was so freaking cool. She had her tank top on, her tits out, ponytail, fucking cool glasses on. I was like, I'm in like a health food store right now with you. This is really crazy. Anyway, and she's like, yeah, like, you should get the brand, this one, because you don't have to soak it so much if you get that one. I'm like,
That's funny.
yeah, it was really, really cool. I'm like, oh, thanks. Yeah. Yeah, that's when I met her. And yeah, she was something else. Something else. My God. And when she
A
died,
legend.
and actually she died only a couple weeks after I met her. It was like sort of meant
Wow.
to be. It was sort of meant to be, right? What an amazing woman.
I know. And a legend. A
A
legend.
legend, like literally.
I still have like my album collection still has like all the Plasmax albums in it, the Wow albums, because it was just iconic. And that, like I
Iconic.
said,
Images.
back then, metalheads did like punk.
That's
it just,
right.
I
Did
mean,
cross over. Like Richie Stotts was sort of like he was in a tutu, but he was still playing like a metal guitar. So like everybody was really confused.
yeah. I was at the first crossover show ever, actually. It was at the Sun Valley Sportsman's Lodge. It was an Elks Lodge, no security. First time you had long hairs and punks in the same venue. And like on the metal side, it was Possessed, Dark Angel, Savage Grace. And then on the punk side, it was COC when they were hardcore punk, and the Descendants and Suicidal before they crossed over.
Okay.
And it was absolute mayhem. Like it was the most iconic. And even I've interviewed both Mike Dean and Woody from COC on 2 separate occasions where I just brought it up. I'm like, you probably don't remember this gig. And it was at the Sun Valley Sportsman's Lodge. And immediately they're like, oh yeah, that was like an Elks Lodge, right? That's the most iconic show we ever played.
These guys remember that kind of stuff.
Like that blew my mind, because it's one thing me being a teenager and this is like iconic to me, but it's another thing them playing it after all the gigs they're like, I've already seen them 3 times this year. Like they're still playing gigs all the time.
Corrosion of Conformity are still playing?
Yeah.
No
they
way.
Were at 3 of the festivals I did.
Oh my God, that's wild.
Right. And I'll tell you something else that blows my mind. I've done interviews at festivals in the past few years of bands that I loved that I couldn't see when I was a teenager, like the Subhumans, Discharge, Exploited, GBH.
And love all of those bands.
And I actually love interviewing the punks, because people don't realize that there's like very highly educated and very well spoken, and you think they're not if you look at them from the judginess of people, but and it's like even they think it was stupid. Like I was talking at Discharge, and they were one that crossed over to metal for a while.
Yeah,
and
they did.
They're like, it was so stupid.
It wasn't good when they did that.
No, I didn't even like that album. Okay.
Nobody liked that. It was like they were so cool, and then all of a sudden, cringe.
Yeah, that album was like, that was a totally cringe album. And then like I interviewed Colin at GBH, and I'm like, I said something like, so what's
that's where I got my idea.
Yeah, see? And I'm like, so what's it like to be here? He was playing a gig in Florida, and it was like a tiki hut. Like it was weird. He goes, well, what? He goes, well, one day you're playing to 1 million people in Mesopotamia. The next day you're playing at some little tiki bar in Stewart, Florida. But they're all still so real now too. Like Dick from Subhumans. Oh my God, he was the nicest guy, and he's still so true to the way he was in the very beginning.
Interesting, isn't it? It's like a whole subculture of people that are just doing their thing. you know?
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
must be cool for you to, to be able to document them and to kind of, journalize their lives and their sort of achievements. That's it. It's really important work, because in 10 years from now, it's going to be, almost extinct, probably.
Let's hope not. But I
Yeah.
can tell you something, okay? I have several grandchildren, but one of my grandchildren, he just turned 15. About a year ago, he comes up to me, or I say to him, like, what do you want for your birthday? And he goes, a guitar. Like, I was totally shocked, but because before that, he was just into like video games and like all the geeky stuff.
Yeah.
And then he wants a guitar. I'm like, good, let's go to Guitar Center. And he picks up this guitar and he starts playing Green Day. And I'm like, look at him, I'm like, I didn't even know you like that music because it's known in my family that I do. And then so I'm playing the music in the car, old school shit. And he knows it all and loves it. Like, so then he asked me to go to one of the festivals with me because Green Day was playing there. And I'm like, yeah, sure, you can do media with me. And, you can do it, hang out and do interviews. And he shows up in a Dead Kennedys shirt. And I'm like, how the hell do you know the Dead Kennedys? So that's what's cool about it because he knows all the shit we know. Like he listens to it, even stuff that people don't know about anymore.
You know
Like
what? It's true. And okay, and now I know we've totally badmouthed the whole Spotify thing, but the reason why he knows that is because if he listens to the Dead Kennedys, then someone's going to say, hey, if you like the Dead Kennedys, you're going to like the Subhumans. And if you like this, you're going to like that. Right?
100%.
So that's what's good about it.
Yeah, I say that too. Like at least it's getting noticed. And like
Yeah.
one of his favorite bands right now is Operation Ivy. I'm like, that
Oh
one
my
even shocked me more than anything because it's like, who would know Operation Ivy in
That's really
2026?
obscure. That's like
Exactly.
actually even really obscure.
Exactly. So I'm playing all this stuff in my car. He knows it all. And I'm
That's
so impressed. And he's got a battle vest. And like, so then I
That's so
put him in
cool.
his first mosh pit ever. And,
Oh no. Be
yeah.
careful.
Oh, well, I know what to put them in, not the,
Okay.
they're not as bad as way back when. Like I was in some brutal pits. Nowadays, like I was just moshing with a bunch of dinosaurs the other day at one of the festivals. Like it's a lot more fun nowadays too. But he, we were going through the crowd and there's like 100,000 people at the festival he was with me at. And and my son is there with us. He doesn't ask his father. He asks me, he goes, and he calls me Zadie because I'm Jewish. So I'm Zadie. And he goes, Zadie, why don't you get us up front? Because you know how to navigate the crowd. And that was like such a proud moment for me,
Oh God. Well, you know what? That is such a beautiful story because like I said, it's sort of like you're keeping it alive and you're being able to share it with your grandson. Like how amazing is that? I have a lot of amazing moments with my kids
See
about
that?
around music. Wow, we share so much fun times just like listening to stuff. Yeah, music is a great thing to share with, you know, kids, grandkids, friends.
That's what's going to keep it alive. That's what's going to
Yeah,
keep it
yeah.
all alive. You know, they used to say punk is dead. They used to say metal is dead. And you go to these festivals and you see that is far from dead. It's way bigger than it even was back then.
And thank God, right? Or whatever it is in the universe that's like working its magic around, keeping all this stuff happening.
Exactly. Well, you are part of that. And thank you for bringing us new music and remastering old music to keep the nostalgia and the new going hand in hand. Tell everybody real quick how they can reach out to you and connect with you and check out all the new music.
Okay. So Brijitte West on Instagram. And it's spelled with a J. So it's BRIJITTE. And also BrijittWest.com is the website. You will start hearing about my new record coming out. That'll be more towards November, but definitely order and have a look at the site about ordering the LP, the vinyl, the CD, t-shirts, whatever, on BrijittWest.com. And hopefully we'll see you out on the road at some point. There's no plans now, but we'll keep you posted.
Well, I hope so. And thank you for still being relevant. And thanks for being on the Adventures of Pipeman.
Okay, cool. Well, Mazel Tov. And thank you very much.
You got it.
Hi, I'm Brijitte West from New York Loose, and you're listening to The Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.
Thank you for listening to the Adventures of Pipeman on W4CY Radio.